Hey guys, welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new. I don't know how this video is gonna go, quite frankly, because it's the second video I'm filming. The kids are basically just yeah. Anyway, what I thought I would do is I wanted to go through books that I have finished reading this month. Currently January 18th. This is like one of the best months I've had reading in probably since I was like 18 years old. Because I've gotten back into reading, and honestly, this is the most reading I've done in forever. And I'm still reading books. So I thought I would go through books that I've finished and kind of just like let you know if they were thumbs up or thumbs down, and then talk about the books that I'm either like still reading or want to read for the month of January. I'm going to start with books that I finished. I'm probably just going to pop them in here because honestly, I don't want to find them all. All of them I don't have physical copies of anyway, so it's just easier this way. Okay. I'm looking at my Goodreads and I don't know why, it never seems to be in order. One of the books that I read, so some of these books carried over from December. I finished them in January. I'm still gonna count those because why the heck not? So one of the books that I finished this month, like at the beginning of the month, was Midnight in Everwood. So this was a book, I was reading it obviously because it was very atmospheric for the holidays. It is a retelling of the Nutcracker and it's just so puts you in the mood for Christmas. But aside from Christmas, even that like just puts you in a wintry mood. So I would say that if you are a mood reader, you don't necessarily have to read this like at Christmas. I could easily pick this up this month and it would still kind of have that same, like it's very wintry vibes to the max. And that's what I loved most about it. I memean, it's a loose retelling of the Nutcracker, so really what got me was the whole like atmosphere, the setting, and just the descriptions of the world. And it's like you could, I don't know, you could feel it, you could smell it, you could taste it. It was just so immersive in that way of like all your senses. The only thing that I had a little bit of like a it's just my own, if I'm gonna like nitpick, as much as I loved the writing, there was quite a few times that the author like reused a lot of the same phrases, I guess, repeatedly throughout the book. I didn't really notice it at first until I noticed it. Do you know what I'm trying to say? That's how I knew, because I was like, wait, what? A few chapters later, it'd be like the same like phrase, like the same wording to describe something over and over again. It wasn't enough that it ruined the book for me. It was just enough that by the end of it, I was kind of like slightly agitated. But aside from that, it was fabulous. I would most likely read it again, to be honest with you. If you like reading, you know, the Christmassy, wintry type of books around this time of year, I would definitely recommend that one. The next book that I finished up this month as well was a middle grade. It's called Green Glass House. I've had this one sitting on my shelf for a while, but I knew that I wanted to save it for like this time of year. So I began reading it, I believe like the week after Christmas, I think I started reading it. And it was like super cute. It's kind of like a mystery. It's about this inn that's kind of in the middle of nowhere. This boy, Milo, and his parents, they run this inn and they have a lot of interesting characters that come by. The whole book, I'm trying to think, does it take place, I'm pretty sure it takes place strictly through Christmas Eve and Christmas Day, if I'm not mistaken. So it definitely also has like the holiday wintry vibes. And the same thing with this story in terms of like the coziness of winter. There was a lot of talk of like hot chocolate and sitting by the fire, all the warmth involved in that. So very moody, and like for a middle grade, I thought it was great. Like I said, it was a mystery, and I didn't call it. I don't know if I was trying that hard really to solve it, because it's one of those stories that like you're immersed in the actual story. Some stories I read, probably more like adult mystery, I'm reading it and I'm like, I want to get to the ending. Do you know what I mean? Like I want to just know what happens at the end. This one wasn't so much like that. The ride was just as fun as the ending of the book. So I really enjoyed it. It was cute, it was fun, and yeah, that was a great cozy read. This next book I read fully in January. I started it and I finished it in January. And it's Rock, Paper, Scissors by Alice Feeney. Definitely a mystery, suspense, a little bit of a thriller maybe. It's this couple and they're married and they're kind of having some trouble in their relationship. So they decide they are going to go away for a weekend in a cabin, an isolated cabin in the middle of nowhere in the woods in the middle of winter, to see if they can just kind of like spend some time together and rekindle whatever is missing. And then we just go on a wild ride. That's all I'm gonna say. It wasn't one of my favorite, thrillers, but there was definitely a lot of twists and turns. It's given in, well, I would say it's more than dual perspective actually, but part of that is even the mystery. Some of the things I saw coming and then some of the things I didn't. It was fun. It was definitely fun. I'm glad I read it, so. It was good. By the way, I'm not going to give anything stars because I feel like it's impossible for me to do star ratings, because when I like a book, there's like so many reasons that I could possibly like or dislike a book. I'm just gonna say yay or nay. I actually just talked about this in another video, but I listened to the audiobook for Atomic Habits, which is nonfiction. And basically it's just all about setting yourself up to develop good habits so that you can be that much closer to attaining your goals. What I took away from the book was that it's actually more important to focus on your day-to-day habits than it is to focus on your actual goal, because you can have a goal, but then you could have an awful way to try to attain that goal and then never attain that goal. If you focus your energy and your planning on like what steps am I going to take and how am I going to make them so that they stick and that they're manageable and that they make sense to me, if you focus on that and you spend less time thinking about the actual end goal, then you're setting yourself up for better success. Not so much about self-help books. A lot of them I just don't like what they talk about, and they're kind of just all over the place. But this one I felt like actually had some like good solid information that made a lot of sense that I'm actually implementing in my own life. So another book that I read this month was A Man Called O by Frederick Bachman. It's the first, I'm confused because I own quite a few of his books, but it was the first book I've actually read from Frederick Bachman. It's probably the one I've heard the most about and was most like intrigued to read, even though I just said that I'm not going to be doing like star ratings. If I was going to, this would get total 5 stars. I love this book so much. I totally cried multiple times. It's so sweet. It's just like, it's one of those books. Yes, there's somewhat of a storyline. Like, yes, there's a storyline. But it's not so much about the plot. It's about the people and the characters. And Uwe, I don't know, people say it differently. He is like this old man who's just constantly in a bad mood, who just really just doesn't like people in general. You start to learn more about him. You start to know why he is the way that he is, and you kind of see him develop relationships with different people in the book and kind of where that all goes. It's just so heartwarming. It's funny. Like, I laughed out loud at parts. I cried at parts. I just love that book. I will definitely be reading that again when I can brace myself for what I know. That was a total thumbs up. I knew it was gonna be loud. They're all just playing. They all decide to play right outside my door. The last book that I finished this month was The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo. I'm a big fan of Taylor Jenkins Reid. I have read Malibu Rising, and I've also read Daisy Jones. Actually, it's funny because Daisy Jones was like one of the first books that I read, and I kind of started my journey back into reading again. I really, really love Daisy Jones. If you've read that book before, then you know that it's set up in like an interview style. So it's very, very different than anything else I've ever read. And at first I wasn't sure about it, but like you quickly just like, you get totally into it. And some people have compared The 7 Husbands of Evelyn Hugo to Daisy Jones because she's supposed to be like an old Hollywood actor, and it just chronicles her life, her rise to fame, where she came from, where she ended up. She's basically had this writer come to her house so that she can write a book on her entire life. So she goes through the process of her telling her whole life, and she wants to open up about all kinds of things in her life that she never has before. But I find that it's still very different than Daisy Jones. Daisy Jones was very much like reading an actual interview. This one was more just like storytelling, I felt. Either way, it was really, really good. I mean, people rave about it, okay? I will say this. I did enjoy it. Like, I did enjoy the story, and I enjoyed the character of Evelyn Hugo. I think it's a very interesting story, and just all the things about her life and her as a character, and kind of analyzing like the decisions that she made in her life for various things. There's a lot of parts of the book that I don't necessarily sit well with me. That kind of was just like meh about, but there are a lot of parts that I did also cry. I don't know, maybe I just cry easily. It is a very emotional book regardless of what you think about the overall story. It was very emotional, and there was a twist also at the end. There's kind of like a story within a story. Did I enjoy it? Yes. I don't know if I'd recommend it. I think if you want to read a Taylor Jenkins Reid book, Daisy Jones, I think I prefer Daisy Jones, but that's just me. So now on to books that I am either like currently reading or still want to read for January. So I've already read, I forgot a book. Okay, wait, there was one more book I read. The last book that I completed was Honor by Thriti Umrigar. I don't know if I'm saying that right. It just came out this month, and I read that one I got it from the library on Libby. And I didn't even know anything about it. I got it because I saw that it was on Reese's book club, her latest book. It's probably still on there, her newest addition to her book club, but I literally knew nothing about it going in, like at all, and I loved it. It's just so good. I really don't want to give it away. It's very much, again, it's a story, but it also very much is about the characters and family, where your loyalty lies, like what things you're willing to do for your family, for your children, to make a better life for yourself, the sacrifices, you know, especially as parents, that parents are willing to make for their kids, and to make better lives for themselves and for their families, for their legacy, things that other people may not understand. I think things that we a lot of times don't understand living in North America, the sacrifices that need to be made, the sacrifices that people make because they want a chance to bring their families here for a better life. It was another one that I just cried, definitely cried. It was just beautifully written. Like, it was just beautifully written, unexpected, which was like the most fun part, because again, I didn't even know if I was going to stick with it or not. I thought like, I'll just try it. I'm so glad I did. So I loved that one as well. Okay, now on to the ones that I'm currently reading. I'm actually currently in the middle of three books. One of them I have a physical copy of. Another one I am reading off Libby, and the other one is an audiobook. I will start with the one that I have the physical copy of. Speaking of Frederick Bachman, I have moved on to Beartown. I'm more than halfway through the book. I would say in general, having this just be the second book I've read of his, not that I'm an expert, but he very much is like, his books are character driven, so it's kind of slow, I'll be honest with you. And what I mean by that is you're not necessarily reading it to find out what happens at the end. You're reading it to read it, to experience the characters. Now, the only thing about this book though, I'm loving it. Like, I'm really enjoying it. The only thing is there's so many characters in this book, and maybe it's just me having a hard time keeping up, but I'm more than halfway through, and there are still some characters that I still have to like think about who they are in the story in relation to other people. So it's taking me a little longer to read it. It's not really that complex. It's just my own thing. It's just hard. There's so many storylines that kind of weave in together. It's about this town called Beartown. It's like a very remote, out in the woods, small town, and they're kind of well, what they want their claim to fame to be is their hockey team, because that's kind of what they do. That's what they're known for. And they are hoping that their hockey team, their high school hockey team, is going to win the championships and kind of put them on the map. While that's all happening, there's these other things that are going on in the background, I guess, kind of in the background. They're kind of becoming more of the they're coming to the forefront more now where I'm at in the book. And that's really all I can say. So, and I don't like hockey. I know it sounds like, do you need to like hockey? I don't think you need to like hockey, because again, it's not so, even though it is about hockey, it's not about hockey. Hopefully I'll have this done by this weekend. I have my iPad here, which is where I just have my Libby app. I'm reading The Hobbit. It's like one of those like classics, you know. I've tried. There's a lot of classics I haven't read that I know a lot of people read in school. They were like assigned reading or whatever, that I just haven't read that. And I want to be careful that I'm only picking up things I actually think that I want to read. I don't want to just read them to read them. I do want to try them. So The Hobbit came up and I thought, well, let me just try it. I'm loving it. Like, it's so, I think I'm only on chapter 5 or something, so I haven't been reading it for very long. It's just such a cozy book, and I don't know too much about it. I know maybe I'm the last person on earth, but like, I don't really know too much about The Hobbit. I know it's about a hobbit and they're on a mission. They're on a journey. I don't know. I don't even know what they're trying to do, but they've like found ogres. Is it ogres they've found? I don't even remember. Trolls. I think it's trolls. It's just a very adventurous kind of book. I think I knew what I was in for, but I don't know fully what I'm in for. And then simultaneously, I am listening to an audiobook of The Maid. This was also a new release that came out, I think it came out in January, yeah. I decided to get the audiobook because, quite frankly, I can't. I have no more time to read a physical book. I'm about 70% through that, and I love it so much. It's also a mystery. It's like a murder mystery, and basically it's about this maid, and she works at this like really fancy hotel. I don't know if they talk about what the hotel is, to be honest with you, but she works at a really fancy hotel. She was the maid for this wealthy couple. Somebody dies, and I don't think I'm giving anything away by saying that they think it's a murder, but nobody really truly knows. And she is sort of a odd and quirky character. She's like super lovable. It is not like, it's not very serious of a book. It's actually quite funny, and her mannerisms and a lot of the things that she says when she speaks are quite funny. And she somehow gets herself tangled up in this mess of this whole death / possible murder debacle, and basically just trying to see it. Well, we're trying to see what the heck's going on, and if she's going to be able to get herself out of this mess, pretty much. I'm really enjoying it. I actually just ordered the physical copy of it because I was like, I already know I'm going to want to read this again. It's just so fun. Yeah, The Maid. I've been loving that. Okay, and then I have 2 more books I want to read. So I'm probably the last person on earth who hasn't read Educated, because I know this was like super hot a couple years ago. Everybody was reading this. I just never picked it up, but I actually just bought this recently, so I haven't had this for very long, and I know a little bit about it, but I don't really know too much about it. I think it's just about a girl, and she grows up not really having access to education. Yeah, lacking. So okay, so she's living in a Mormon home with an abusive father, I think, and she lacks formal education, so she begins to educate herself. And I think it basically just kind of goes through the story, and it's a memoir, so I have a feeling this is going to tear me apart, but I'm very interested and excited to read that. The last book on my list. Okay, this is a January pick, but I feel more like this is going to be an entire 2022 pick, because I think I'll be reading this all year. And I even feel like I'll be lucky if I finish this year. Okay, this is what I'm doing. I don't know why I'm doing this to myself, but I'm going to do this to myself. I'm going to attempt to finish Leo Tolstoy's War and Peace. Okay, do you see how big this book is? The writing is super small, like it needs to be, and it's over 1,000 pages. It's well over 1,000 pages. Okay, I've started it. I think I'm gonna have to restart it though, because I was on page, I don't even know. Why does it seem like I should be further in than I am? But there is French in here. This is the Oxford World's Classic, and there's a lot of parts that are in French, and then there's like, you need to see you go down to the bottom and then they have the translation of what is being said. So a lot of the dialogue, like a lot of the actual dialogue is in French. Not all of it, but some of it. So you kind of have to reference and see what they're saying. And aside from that, it's just huge in about a lot of things. As far as I know too, I think it's broken up into sections. Am I right? Yeah, it's a book broken up into books. Is it 3 books or 4 books? 4 books. 4 books. And then there's chapters within each book. So I don't know, wish me luck. I'll report back and see if I finish this, because this is all, like I said, I'm just going to continue reading this as I continue to add in books every month that I'm reading. And also, I mentioned this in another video, that I'm also I got the 1-year Bible because I want to read the Bible, the entire Bible this year. It's thicker. It's thicker than the Bible. What? So yeah, there you go. That is what I have read, what I'm currently reading, and what I want to read for January. Let me know down below if you have read any of the books I talked about, or if any of them are on your to be read for January or anytime this year. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you love books as much as me, yeah, I love watching book videos. Don't forget to subscribe and thumbs up. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in my next video. Bye.